My name is Madeline Parker, and at 29, I never imagined I'd be a single mom to a 14-month-old daughter named Lily. But here I am, holding my phone, staring at my sister Stephanie's text message that cuts deeper than any knife. Being a single mom is a family disgrace. You're not even invited to Thanksgiving. My hands shake as I put down my phone, listening to Lily babble happily in her playpen, completely unaware that her own aunt just declared us unwelcome at our family table. Before I tell you how my entire family turned their backs on me during the hardest time of my life, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you've ever felt judged for your life choices. I always prided myself on being the responsible one. While Stephanie partied through college, I worked part-time and maintained a 4 gigapascals in nursing school. I paid my own bills, saved for retirement, and never caused our parents a moment of worry. My life was perfectly on track until Jake walked into the hospital where I worked. Jake Sullivan was the new pharmaceutical sales representative, tall, with a charming smile and an easy way of talking that made even our grumpiest doctors pay attention. The first time he stopped by the nurse's station, he spent 15 minutes asking about my day instead of just dropping off samples and leaving like the other reps. You know, most sales guys only pretend to care about nurses until they get to the doctors, I told him on his 3rd visit. He laughed. Maybe I'm just stalling because I'm trying to figure out how to ask you to dinner without being unprofessional. After 2 weeks of this flirtatious back and forth, I finally agreed to dinner. One date turned into weekly dates, then into a serious relationship. Jake was attentive and kind, bringing me coffee during night shifts and remembering the names of all my coworkers. 8 months in, on a rainy Tuesday morning, I stared at the positive pregnancy test in my bathroom with equal parts terror and excitement. When I told Jake, his eyes widened, but then he broke into a huge smile. "We're having a baby?" He picked me up and spun me around our kitchen. "This is amazing, Maddie." The first few months of pregnancy were a blur of morning sickness and doctor's appointments, with Jake attending every ultrasound. He painted the nursery a soft yellow and assembled the crib while I directed from the rocking chair my mother had given us. Everything seemed perfect, but around month 7, something changed. Jake started working later, missing appointments, growing quiet when I talked about baby names. "Are you okay?" I asked one night as we lay in bed, his back to me. "Just stressed about work," he mumbled, not turning around. "Big accounts coming up." I told myself this was normal pre-baby jitters, the pressure of impending fatherhood. My own father, Richard, had always been stoic about emotional matters, so maybe this was just Jake's way of processing things. When Lily finally arrived after 22 hours of labor, Jake was there, cutting the cord with shaking hands. He held her gingerly, as if she might break. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "Like her mom." "For 2 weeks," he tried. "I'll give him that much." He changed diapers with a perpetually disgusted expression. He walked Lily at night when she wouldn't stop crying, though I could hear him muttering under his breath. Then one morning, I woke to find him packing a suitcase. "I can't do this, Maddie," he said, not meeting my eyes. "I thought I could, but I can't. I'm not cut out to be a father." "Jake, please," I begged, Lily crying in my arms. "We can work this out. People adjust. It takes time. I've taken a position in Seattle. My flight leaves in 3 hours." He finally looked at me, his face a mask of regret mixed with relief. "I'll send money every month, I promise." And just like that, I became a single mother. The first check arrived 2 weeks later, less than half of what we'd need. The second was even smaller. By the 3rd month, they stopped coming altogether, and my texts went unanswered. My family's reaction was predictably disappointing. My mother Grace visited often during those first few weeks, cooking meals and helping with Lily. But I could see the way her eyes darted around my apartment, searching for signs of Jake's return. "Have you heard from him today?" became her standard greeting. My father was less subtle. "You need to call that boy and work things out," he advised during their first visit to meet Lily. "A child needs her father." "He left us, Dad," I reminded him. "He doesn't want to be found." "Then you shouldn't have gotten pregnant before marriage," he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. Stephanie, with her investment banker husband and their perfect suburban life, was perhaps the worst. She brought expensive baby clothes with the tags still attached and dispensed unwanted advice while making it clear she thought I had ruined my life. "You know, Maddie, there are options for women in your situation," she said during one visit, bouncing Lily awkwardly on her knee. "You mean single mothers?" I asked. "I mean women who made a mistake and need a fresh start," she clarified, her voice dripping with condescension. Only my younger brother Thomas seemed genuinely supportive, playing with Lily and offering to babysit when I needed a break. "Don't listen to them," he told me one evening as we sat on my balcony after putting Lily to bed. "They're stuck in another century." But Thomas was busy with graduate school and lived 2 hours away. His support, while genuine, was mostly long distance. Meanwhile, I was drowning, working reduced hours to care for Lily, struggling to afford childcare for the shifts I did take, and barely sleeping as I adjusted to life as Lily's only parent. The judgmental comments from my family grew more frequent and less veiled. Sunday dinners at my parents' house, once a cherished tradition, became an exercise in endurance. I'd sit there, forcing smiles as Stephanie talked about her latest vacation, or Mom showed pictures of her garden club, all while feeling like an outsider in my own family. By September, when Lily was almost a year old, I had established a routine of sorts. I worked 3 12-hour shifts a week, leaving Lily with Mrs. Rodriguez, my elderly neighbor who charged less than any daycare. I clipped coupons religiously and learned to make baby food from scratch. My apartment wasn't fancy, but it was clean and warm, with photos of Lily charting her growth on every wall. Thanksgiving was approaching, and in the Parker family, this was no small affair. My mother spent weeks planning the menu. My father invited business associates, and Stephanie hosted at her sprawling 4-bedroom house. It had always been my favorite holiday, the one time of year when everyone seemed genuinely happy to be together. 2 months before the big day, during our weekly Sunday dinner at my parents' house, I could feel the tension building. Stephanie was hosting again this year and had already started discussing seating arrangement. "We'll have to use the kids' table in the kitchen for the cousins," she said, spooning mashed potatoes onto her plate. "The dining room only seats 12 adults. Lily's too young for the kids' table," I pointed out. "She'll need to be next to me." Stephanie exchanged a look with our mother. "Well, that complicates things. We already have the perfect number." "What do you mean?" "There's always been room for everyone," I said, feeling my chest tighten. "It's just that David's parents are coming this year, and his sister with her husband," Stephanie replied. "Plus Mom and Dad, Thomas, David and me, and the Hendersons from Dad's firm." "So where exactly am I supposed to sit?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level with Lily dozing in my lap. My father cleared his throat. "Madeline, have you thought about reconciling with Jake? The holidays are a time for family, after all." The question hit me like a slap. "Jake left us, Dad. He's not coming back, and even if he wanted to, I wouldn't take him back now." "That's a very closed-minded attitude," my mother chimed in. "People make mistakes. Forgiveness is important, especially for Lily's sake." "Forgiveness?" I laughed bitterly. "He abandoned his 3-week-old daughter. He hasn't sent a dime in almost a year. He doesn't call. He doesn't ask about her. What exactly should I be forgiving?" "A proper family structure," Stephanie said, her voice sharp. "Do you really want Lily growing up thinking it's normal to not have a father? As opposed to what? Having a father who doesn't want her? Who walked out because parenting was too hard?" I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to cry in front of them. "Lots of kids grow up in single-parent households and turn out just fine. Statistics show otherwise," Stephanie countered, setting down her fork with a definitive click. "Children from broken homes have higher rates of depression, drug use, and teenage pregnancy." "My home isn't broken," I snapped. "It's just me and Lily, and we're doing fine." "Are you, though?" She gestured around the table. "You're living in that tiny apartment, working part-time, relying on an unlicensed babysitter. Is that really what's best for Lily?" "An unlicensed Mrs. Rodriguez raised 5 children of her own," She's more qualified than half the teenagers working at daycare centers. Ladies, please, my father interrupted. This is dinner, not a debate club. I'm just saying, Stephanie continued, as if he hadn't spoken, that there are certain family values that have stood the test of time. Marriage before children is one of them. Oh, like you and David waited? The words flew out before I could stop them. The table went silent. Everyone knew Stephanie had been 3 months pregnant at her wedding, though no one ever acknowledged it. That was completely different, she hissed. David and I were already engaged. We had a plan. And what about cousin Rachel? I pressed. She's divorced with 2 kids, but she's always welcome at family gatherings. Rachel's husband was abusive, my mother interjected. That's hardly comparable. So what you're saying is, I needed to get married and then abused to earn your approval. Rather than making the decision to raise my daughter on my own when her father clearly wasn't up to the task? Don't be dramatic, Madeline, my father sighed. No one's saying that, aren't you though? Every single Sunday, I sit here while you all make passive-aggressive comments about my life choices. I'm doing the best I can, and instead of supporting me, you're all judging me. Lily, disturbed by my raised voice, began to whimper. I bounced her gently, trying to calm both her and myself. Perhaps it would be better if you took some time to think about your attitude, Stephanie said coldly. This kind of emotional outburst isn't healthy for anyone, especially not Lily. My attitude? I stood up, cradling Lily against my shoulder. I'm not the one who thinks I'm somehow less worthy of being included in family gatherings because I'm raising a child on my own. Madeline, sit down, my father ordered. You're overreacting. No, Dad. I'm finally standing up for myself. I grabbed Lily's diaper bag. When you're all ready to accept me, accept us as we are, let me know. Until then, we'll be at home, in our tiny, broken apartment, somehow managing to be happy, despite not meeting your standards. I walked out to a chorus of my mother's pleas to be reasonable, and my father's stern commands to come back to the table. In the car, I buckled Lily into her car seat, her eyes wide and curious as tears streamed down my face. It's okay, sweetie, I whispered, more to myself than to her. We're okay. But as I drove home, sobs caught in my throat. I wondered if we really were okay. If I was doing the right thing by standing my ground, or if I was just making everything worse. The next few weeks were tense. My mother called daily, acting as if nothing had happened. I let most calls go to voicemail, but picked up occasionally for Lily's sake. Your father and sister mean well, she'd say. They just worry about you. There's a difference between worry and judgment, Mom, I'd reply, and the conversation would go in circles from there. Thomas called to check in. You missed one hell of a dinner ending, he reported. Dad and Stephanie spent 20 minutes talking about the decline of traditional values while Mom kept serving dessert like nothing was happening. I'm sorry I left you there alone, I said. Don't be. Someone needed to stand up to them. I'm proud of you, Maddie. His support meant everything, but it didn't stop the rest of my family from canceling our usual plans. My mother suddenly couldn't make our weekly shopping trip. My father had golf every weekend. Even my cousin Rachel, who had always been friendly, stopped responding to my texts about meeting up with our kids. I was being frozen out, and everyone knew it. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Stephanie called. It was unusual for her to call directly. She typically relayed messages through our mother, so I answered, thinking perhaps she wanted to apologize. Madeline, she said without preamble, I'm finalizing the Thanksgiving arrangements and wanted to be clear about expectations. Expectations? I repeated, watching Lily stack blocks on the living room floor. Yes, the dinner will be formal, as always. The Hendersons are bringing their son Justin. He's a doctor, by the way, and it's important that everything goes smoothly. Okay. I waited for her to continue, not understanding where this was going. The thing is, Madeline, your situation makes people uncomfortable. David's parents are very traditional, and after your outburst at dinner last month, we feel it's better if you sit this one out. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. You're uninviting me from Thanksgiving? Being a single mom is a family disgrace, Madeline. You're not even invited to Thanksgiving. Her voice was cold, detached, as if she were canceling a hair appointment rather than cutting her sister out of a family holiday. Maybe next year, once you've figured things out with Jake, or at least adopted a more appropriate attitude about your situation. My situation? I repeated, my voice rising. You mean being abandoned while pregnant and choosing to raise my daughter anyway? That situation? See, this is exactly the kind of defensiveness I'm talking about. No one's judging you. You literally just called me a family disgrace. I said your situation is a disgrace. There's a difference. She sighed dramatically. This is precisely why we think it's better for everyone if you take some time to reflect. The holidays are stressful enough without adding your drama. My drama? I was nearly shouting now, and Lily looked up, startled. I took a deep breath, trying to control my voice. Stephanie, listen to yourself. You're banning your own sister and niece from Thanksgiving dinner because what we might embarrass you in front of your in-laws. It's not just about that. It's about the example we're setting. Family gatherings should celebrate our best traditions, not alternatives. I hung up. I couldn't listen to another word. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to set the phone down on the coffee table to avoid dropping it. Lily crawled over, pulling herself up on my knees, her little face concerned. It's okay, baby, I whispered, lifting her into my lap. Mommy's okay. But I wasn't okay. I was devastated. Growing up, our parents had always emphasized the importance of family, of sticking together no matter what. Now I was being cast out because I didn't fit their narrow definition of what a family should look like. I called my mother next, certain she'd intervene. Mom, did you know about this? Did you know Stephanie was going to uninvite us from Thanksgiving? There was a long pause. Madeline, your sister is hosting in her home. She has the right to decide who attends. So you agree with her? You think Lily and I should be excluded from our family holiday? I think, she hesitated. I think this tension isn't good for anyone. Maybe a little break would give everyone time to cool down. A break? Mom, we're talking about Thanksgiving. It's the one holiday that's always been important to us as a family. There will be other Thanksgivings, dear. Maybe next year things will be different. Different? How? Jake isn't coming back. I'm still going to be a single mother next year, and the year after that, and every year. Well, we don't know what the future holds, she said vaguely. Just focus on Lily for now, and we'll revisit the holiday situation later. My father was even less sympathetic. Your sister's house. Her rules, he stated flatly. If you'd handled things differently with Jake, we wouldn't be in this mess. Differently? He left us, Dad. What was I supposed to do? You could have tried harder to work it out, called his parents. Been more understanding of his struggles. I laughed incredulously. His struggles? What about my struggles? What about your granddaughter growing up without a father because he couldn't handle the responsibility? All I'm saying is that there are consequences to our choices. You chose to have a baby with an unreliable man. I didn't know he was unreliable. None of us did. You and Mom had him over for dinner multiple times. You took him golfing. No one saw this coming. Regardless, the situation is what it is. If you want to be included in family events, you need to be more accepting of the family's concerns about your lifestyle. My lifestyle? Being a single mother isn't a lifestyle, Dad. It's a reality I'm dealing with as best I can, without much help from any of you. He sighed heavily. Madeline, you've always been stubborn. Just think about what I've said. Thomas was the only one who expressed genuine outrage. That's complete bullshit, he exclaimed when I told him. Stephanie's just being her usual controlling self. Everyone's taking her side, I said, my voice breaking. Even Mom. Not everyone. I'm not. He paused. Look, I have an exam the day before, but I'm coming to your place for Thanksgiving. Forget them. His offer touched me, but I knew he was caught in the middle. You should go to Stephanie's. Don't make this harder on yourself. Maddie, it's okay, really. Lily and I will be fine. We'll have our own little celebration. After hanging up, I sat in my darkened apartment, Lily finally asleep in her crib. The silence was deafening. I scrolled through photos on my phone last Thanksgiving, all of us around Stephanie's table, smiling. Dad carving the turkey. Mom's homemade cranberry sauce that no one actually liked but everyone pretended to. Thomas sneaking extra rolls into his pockets. A family, my family, and now, suddenly, Lily and I were on the outside. That night, I cried myself to sleep for the first time since Jake left. Back then, I'd been too busy, too focused on Lily to fully process my grief. Now, rejected by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, I felt truly alone. The next morning, dressing Lily for daycare, I caught sight of our reflection in the mirror, her chubby cheeks and curious eyes, my tired face and slumped shoulders. We deserve better than this, I told our reflection. But in the depths of my heart, a small voice wondered. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've failed her by not providing a proper family. Maybe this is all my fault. It was the lowest point of my journey, as a single mother, lower even than the day Jake walked out. Because this time, everyone had walked out. The week after being uninvited from Thanksgiving, I was at work, mechanically checking patient vitals, while my mind replayed Stephanie's cruel words on an endless loop. I must have checked the same blood pressure 3 times when Ashley, another nurse on my floor, touched my shoulder. "Earth to Madeline," she said gently. "You've been staring at Mrs. Patel's chart for 5 minutes. Everything okay?" I blinked, coming back to myself. "Sorry, just distracted." "Break room, 5 minutes," she commanded. "I'll cover your patients." In the quiet of the break room, the whole story tumbled out: Jake's abandonment, my family's growing disapproval, and finally, the Thanksgiving ultimatum. "Your sister said what?" Ashley's outrage was immediate and validating. "Being a single mom is a family disgrace? What century is she living in?" I shrugged, picking at my salad. "The one where appearances matter more than people, apparently." "That's complete garbage, Maddie. You're an amazing mom. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with you and Lily can see that." Her words were like a balm to my raw spirit. "Thanks, Ash. You and Lily are coming to my place for Thanksgiving," she declared. "No arguments. Mark already bought a turkey the size of a small car, and my mom's flying in from Florida. It'll be chaotic, and probably a little drunk by dessert, but you'll be surrounded by people who actually care about you." For the first time in weeks, I felt something loosen in my chest. "Are you sure? We don't want to intrude." "Intrude? Maddie, your family. The real kind, not the conditional BS your sister's peddling." I was about to respond when Marcus Chen, one of the hospital's pediatric residents, poked his head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need a consult on a central line in 204. "I'll be right there," Ashley said, standing. To me, she added, "Think about Thanksgiving. Say yes." After she left, I remained at the table, pushing lettuce around my container. Marcus lingered in the doorway. "Rough day?" he asked. I looked up, surprised. Marcus and I had a cordial professional relationship, but we'd never really talked outside of patient care. "Rough month," I admitted. He nodded, then entered the room fully, taking the seat Ashley had vacated. "Want to talk about it? I've got 10 minutes before my next patient." Maybe it was the genuine concern in his eyes, or maybe I was just tired of holding everything in, but I found myself giving him the condensed version of my family drama. "So basically, I'm a single mom pariah," I concluded, attempting a light tone that didn't quite land. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "My mom raised me alone after my dad died," he finally said. "I was 3. She dealt with the same kind of judgment from relatives who thought she should remarry right away for my sake. What did she do? Built her own community. Found people who supported her choices instead of questioning them." He smiled slightly. "She always said blood makes you related, but love and respect make you family." "Your mom sounds wise." "She is. She also sent me to therapy when I was 12 and struggling with not having a dad, which was pretty radical for a traditional Chinese woman in the 90s. He checked his watch. "I should get back. But, Madeline, for what it's worth, I've seen you with Lily when you bring her to the hospital daycare. You're doing a great job." After he left, I sat there, turning our conversation over in my mind. Marcus had noticed me with Lily, had seen enough to form an opinion about my parenting. Somehow, that observation from a relative stranger felt more meaningful than all my family's criticisms. The next day, I was changing IV bags when Marcus appeared with 2 coffees. Peace offering for intruding on your break yesterday, he explained, offering me one. You didn't intrude, I assured him, accepting the coffee gratefully. Actually, it helped to talk to someone who understands. Over the next 2 weeks, these coffee exchanges became something of a ritual. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, brief conversations about our days, our patients, and occasionally, deeper topics. I learned that Marcus had chosen pediatrics because of a childhood illness that left him hospitalized for months. He learned about my nursing school struggles and my dreams of eventually becoming a nurse practitioner. One evening, working a late shift, I found myself in the break room at 2 a.m., fighting back tears after a particularly difficult case. Marcus walked in, clearly at the end of a 30-hour shift himself. "Hey," he said softly, taking in my red eyes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." I wiped my eyes quickly. "Just tired, I guess." He sat beside me. "It's more than that." And suddenly, it all came pouring out, not just the family rejection, but everything. How exhausted I was trying to be both mother and father to Lily. How sometimes I woke up in the middle of the night panicking about money. How I loved my daughter fiercely but sometimes missed my old life, my freedom, my sleep. And then I feel guilty for even thinking that, I confessed, tears flowing freely now. What kind of mother resents her own child, even for a second? "A human one," Marcus said simply. "My mom told me once that she used to lock herself in the bathroom and cry for 5 minutes every day. Set a timer and everything. She called it her sanity shower. Despite myself, I laughed. That actually sounds healthy. It was her way of acknowledging that parenting is hard, single parenting is harder, and pretending otherwise helps no one." He hesitated, then added, "Have you considered joining a support group? The hospital sponsors one for single parents." I shook my head. Between work and Lily, I barely have time to shower. They offer childcare during meetings. First Tuesday of every month, 7 to 9 p.m. He pulled out his phone and showed me the hospital's community board. Next meeting is in 2 days. I don't know. Just think about it. My mom said finding other single parents was what saved her sanity. People who got it, without judgment. 2 days later, after much internal debate, I found myself walking into a conference room on the hospital's first floor, Lily on my hip. A cheerful woman named Dana took her to the adjoining room where several children were already playing. "First time?" asked a tall black woman with beautiful braids, offering me a cup of coffee. I nodded nervously. "Is it that obvious? You've got that deer in headlights. Look, we all had our first meeting," she laughed. "I'm Keisha, single mom to 10-year-old twins, Madeline. My daughter Lily just turned 14 months. Ah, the toddler trenches. Fun times." Her warm smile took any sting from the words. "Come sit with us." For the next 2 hours, I listened to parents share their struggles, victories, and everyday mundanities. No one used phrases like broken home or family values. No one suggested finding a partner was the solution to their problems. They talked about childcare swaps and discount grocery stores, about navigating school events alone, and dealing with ex-partners who were either too involved or not involved enough. They were real people living real lives, not stereotypes or statistics. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. "Thanks for telling me about this," I told Marcus the next day. It was eye-opening. In a good way, I hope? Definitely. It's nice to be around people who don't think my life is some kind of tragedy. He smiled. My mom always said single parenting isn't a tragedy, it's just a different path. The tragedy would be staying in a bad situation because society says a broken family is worse than an unhappy one. "Your mom and I would get along," I remarked. "Oh, she'd love you," he said, then blushed slightly. "I mean, she admires strong women who don't conform to expectations." Something warm flickered in my chest. Not romance, exactly, but possibility. The possibility that my world could expand beyond the narrow confines of my family's judgment. That new people could enter our lives and enrich them rather than diminish them. That evening, watching Lily stack blocks with intense concentration, I realized something important. I'd been so focused on what we'd lost Jake, my family's approval, the traditional structure I'd grown up expecting that I'd failed to appreciate what we were building. A different kind of family, perhaps, but a valid one nonetheless. "Hey, Lily Bean," I said softly. "What do you think about having our own Thanksgiving this year? Just you and me, and maybe some new friends?" She looked up and smiled, her heart-melting smile, offering me a block as if it contained all the answers I needed. And maybe it did. As Thanksgiving approached, I found myself in an unexpected position, not dreading the holiday, but actually looking forward to it. After attending 2 more single-parent group meetings, I'd connected with several members who, like me, were facing the holidays without extended family support. "We should do our own Thanksgiving," suggested Rachel, a divorced mother of a 3-year-old boy, during our coffee meetup. A misfit Thanksgiving for all of us without fancy family dinners to attend. "I'd be down for that," agreed Miguel, a widower raising twin girls. "But my apartment barely fits the 3 of us." "We could do it at my place," I offered, surprising myself. "It's not huge, but we could make it work." And just like that, our alternative Thanksgiving was born. Over the next week, our group chat buzzed with planning. Rachel would bring desserts. Miguel offered to make his late wife's famous empanadas, and Keisha promised her grandmother's mac and cheese recipe that will change your life. I threw myself into preparations with unexpected enthusiasm. Lily helped me clean the apartment, which mostly involved her following behind me with a small cloth, wiping already clean surfaces while babbling happily. I found myself looking at my modest 2-bedroom apartment with new eyes, not seeing its limitations, but its potential. "What do you think, Lily Bean? Should we decorate?" I asked her as we stood in the home goods aisle at Target. She pointed decisively at a ceramic pumpkin, and our decorating theme was set. I bought affordable fall-themed items, leaf garlands, mini pumpkins, and a banner reading "Thankful" to hang across the living room wall. None of it matched my sister's elegant Thanksgiving decor, with its coordinated china and cloth napkins, but it felt warm and welcoming. The night before our shopping trip, Ashley had called to check if we were still joining her family for Thanksgiving. "Actually," I told her, "I'm hosting my own dinner. Just something small with some friends from the single parents group." "Maddie, that's amazing. Are you sure you don't want to come to ours too? You could do both." "Thanks, but I think I need to do this. Build something that's ours, you know?" "I get it," she said supportively. "But we're still here if you change your mind." Her backup offer meant more than I could express, but something in me needed to create this new tradition, rather than joining someone else's. For once, I wanted to be the host, not the charity case. 3 days before Thanksgiving, my phone rang with my brother's number. "Hey, Thomas," I answered, balancing Lily on my hip as I stirred a pot of soup for dinner. "Hey, Maddie." He sounded tense. "So, I kind of did something, and you might be mad." "What did you do?" I asked cautiously. "I told Stephanie and Mom and Dad that I'm not coming to Thanksgiving because I'm going to your place instead." I nearly dropped the spoon. "You what?" "I said I'm coming to your place. Are you actually having Thanksgiving there? Because if not, this is going to be really awkward, and I'll have to pretend I'm at your house while actually sitting in my apartment eating ramen." "I am having Thanksgiving. But Thomas, why would you do that? Now they're going to be even more upset." "Good," he said firmly. "They should be upset. What they're doing is wrong, Maddie. Cutting you out like this, it's cruel and completely against everything they taught us about family. But now they'll be mad at you too. Let them be mad. I'm an adult making my own choices, just like you are." There was a shuffling sound on his end. "So, can I come? Or is this like a single parents only thing?" I laughed despite myself. "Of course you can come. It's at 2 o'clock. Bring something to drink." "You got it. And Maddie, I'm proud of you." After hanging up, I stood in my kitchen, a strange feeling swelling in my chest. Pride. Not the desperate pride of trying to prove my worth to my judgmental family, but genuine pride in creating something meaningful out of rejection. The next morning, I was hanging the thankful banner, Lily playing with tissue paper pumpkins on the floor, when my doorbell rang. Opening it revealed Marcus, holding a small potted plant with autumn-colored leaves. "Hey," he said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I hope this isn't weird, but I remembered you saying you were hosting Thanksgiving, and I thought this might look nice on your table." "That's so thoughtful," I said, genuinely touched. "Would you like to come in?" He glanced at his watch. "I actually have rounds in an hour, but I wanted to drop this off." "Are you working Thanksgiving?" He nodded. "Volunteered for the holiday shift. Most of the attendings have kids. So, what about after? We're eating at 2, but people will probably be around until evening. You could stop by for dessert." The invitation surprised both of us, but his smile made me glad I'd offered. "I'd like that, thanks." The day before Thanksgiving, I was making my grocery list when my phone rang again. This time, it was my father. "Madeline," he began without preamble, "your brother tells me he's attending Thanksgiving at your apartment." "That's right," I confirmed, bracing myself. "He says you're hosting several people." "Yes, friends from work and a support group." There was a long pause. "I see." Another pause. "Your mother and I have been talking." Here it comes, I thought. More judgment, more criticism. "We wondered if perhaps you might have room for 2 more. I nearly dropped the phone. "You want to come to my Thanksgiving?" "If the invitation is open," he said stiffly. "Your mother is quite upset about the family being divided for the holiday." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an acknowledgement that they had been complicit in that division. But it was something. "Dinner is at 2, I said finally. "Mom can bring her cranberry sauce if she wants. She'll appreciate that." His voice softened slightly. "Madeline, we miss Lily. And you." "I miss you too, Dad." Despite everything, it was true. After hanging up, I sat down hard on my couch, emotions swirling. Part of me wanted to call them back and rescind the invitation. They didn't deserve to be included after how they'd treated me. But another part, the part that remembered my father teaching me to ride a bike and my mother reading me bedtime stories, wanted to believe this could be a first step toward healing. Thanksgiving morning dawned bright and clear. Lily, sensing the excitement, woke early, babbling happily, as I dressed her in the little burgundy dress I'd splurged on for the occasion. "Today's a big day, Lily Bean," I told her, smoothing her wispy curls. "Our first Thanksgiving in our new tradition." By noon, my small apartment was transformed. The dining table was extended with a folding table borrowed from Rachel, covered with mismatched but clean tablecloths. The thankful banner hung proudly across the living room wall, and Marcus's plant made a perfect centerpiece. The air was filled with the scent of roasting turkey, a smaller bird than Stephanie would serve, but one I'd prepared myself with a recipe from the single parents group's shared cookbook. At 1:30, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find my parents standing awkwardly in the hallway, my mother clutching her cut-glass cranberry sauce dish, my father holding a bouquet of fall flowers. "Happy Thanksgiving," my mother said tentatively. "We brought a few things." "Thank you," I replied, stepping back to let them in. "Come meet Lily. She's grown so much since you saw her last." Their eyes widened as they entered, taking in my modest but festive decorations. I could see them adjusting their expectations, recalibrating what they thought this day would be. Lily toddled over, shy at first but warming up as my mother knelt down to her level. "Hello, precious girl," she cooed. "Grandma's missed you so much." My father stood awkwardly until Lily offered him a tissue paper pumpkin, her version of a peace offering. He took it solemnly, as if receiving a priceless gift. "Thank you, Lily. It's beautiful." Thomas arrived next, giving me a bear hug and whispering, "You okay?" in my ear. I nodded, grateful for his steady presence. By 2 o'clock, my apartment was full. Rachel and her son, Miguel and his twins, Keisha, and several other members of the single parents group. They greeted my parents warmly, including them in conversations and complimenting my mother's cranberry sauce without a hint of the tension I felt. "This is lovely, Madeline," my mother said as we arranged dishes on the buffet-style serving table. "You've done a wonderful job." "Thanks, Mom. It's not Stephanie's crystal and china, but it works for us." She hesitated. "Stephanie sends her regrets. She wasn't ready to change her plans." I nodded, unsurprised. "Maybe next year." "Your father and I have been thinking," she continued, her voice low. "We haven't been fair to you, or supportive." "No," I agreed. You haven't. We were so focused on what we thought your life should look like that we couldn't see how well you were doing with the life you actually have. She glanced around the room, at Lily playing with the other children, at the adults laughing and sharing stories. This is a real family gathering, isn't it? Just not the kind we expected. Family doesn't have to look the same for everyone, Mom. I'm beginning to see that. She squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, Madeline. Truly. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a start. We had years of hurt to work through, assumptions to challenge, new boundaries to establish. But standing there in my home, surrounded by a community that accepted me without condition, I felt stronger than I had in months. Before we sat down to eat, Thomas tapped his glass for attention. Since I'm the brother of our amazing host, I'd like to propose a toast. Everyone raised their mismatched glasses, wine glasses, water tumblers, even sippy cups. To new traditions, Thomas said, his eyes meeting mine. And to Madeline, who taught me that family is about who loves you unconditionally, not who shares your DNA. To Madeline, everyone echoed. As we settled around the tables, passing dishes and sharing stories, I glanced at the thankful banner hanging above us. For the first time since becoming a single mother, I felt not just resigned to my situation, but genuinely grateful for it. Because despite the hardships, it had led me here to this moment of authentic connection and newfound strength. At 5 o'clock, as people were helping themselves to second servings of dessert, the doorbell rang again. I'll get it, I said, extracting myself from a conversation about preschool options. Marcus stood in the hallway, still in his hospital scrubs, but with a small gift bag in hand. Sorry I'm late. Emergency appendectomy. Just in time for pie, I assured him, ushering him in. Everyone, this is my friend Marcus from the hospital. As the evening progressed, I noticed my father and Marcus deep in conversation near the window. Later, Dad approached me in the kitchen as I loaded the dishwasher. That young doctor seems very fond of you, he observed. We're friends, I said, feeling my cheeks warm slightly. He's been supportive since everything. Good, my father nodded. You deserve supportive people in your life. He hesitated. Your mother and I would like to be part of that support system again, if you'll let us. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just my critical father, but an aging man who'd made mistakes, who was trying, in his imperfect way, to make amends. I'd like that, I said softly, but things have to be different. I need you to respect my choices, even when they're not the ones you would make. I'm learning, he promised. Slowly, but I'm learning. As the guests began to leave, each with containers of leftovers and warm hugs, I found myself standing in my living room beside the thankful banner, Lily sleeping soundly on my shoulder. The apartment was messy, dishes still piled in the sink, crumbs on the carpet. But it was a beautiful mess, evidence of a day filled with laughter, connection, and healing. Thomas, the last to leave, hugged me at the door. So, same time next year? I smiled. Definitely. With a few improvements now that I know what I'm doing. Are you kidding? This was perfect. He kissed Lily's forehead gently. You've built something really special here, Maddie. Not just a dinner, a community. As I closed the door behind him, I realized he was right. Somewhere between being uninvited from my sister's picture-perfect Thanksgiving and hosting my own mismatched gathering, I'd discovered something important. I didn't need my family's approval to be worthy of love and belonging. I'd created my own definition of family, one built on acceptance rather than appearance, on love rather than judgment. And in doing so, I'd found not just my voice, but my power. The weeks after Thanksgiving brought unexpected changes in my relationship with my parents. My mother called more frequently, not to offer unsolicited advice, but to genuinely ask about our lives. My father sent a check for Lily's education fund, along with a note that simply read, "No strings attached." Small steps, but meaningful ones. December arrived, bringing with it holiday decorations and the usual stress of gift shopping on a tight budget. The single parents group organized a toy exchange, allowing us to trade gently used items our children had outgrown for new ones they might enjoy. It was practical and sustainable, exactly the kind of support I'd come to value. At work, Marcus and I continued our coffee breaks, our conversations deepening as we shared more of our lives. He told me about his residency challenges, his dreams of opening a pediatric clinic in an underserved neighborhood, his worries about disappointing his accomplished mother. I shared my nursing school stories, my hopes of returning for my nurse practitioner degree someday, my fears about balancing ambition with motherhood. "How are things with your family?" he asked one afternoon, as we huddled in the hospital courtyard, steam from our coffees clouding in the December air. "Better, I think. My mom wants me to bring Lily over to help decorate their Christmas tree this weekend." "That's progress." "It is. Though I'm still not sure about Christmas dinner. Stephanie will be there, and we haven't spoken since the Thanksgiving drama." He nodded thoughtfully. "What are you hoping for with her? Reconciliation? Apology? Polite détente?" It was a good question, one I hadn't fully considered. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants an apology, an acknowledgement that she was cruel, but another part just wants to move forward without rehashing it all. Both are valid." "What would you do?" I asked, genuinely curious. He considered this, his expression serious. "I'd probably need the air cleared before moving forward. Not to punish her, but because relationships built on unaddressed hurt tend to fracture again at the first sign of stress." His insight stayed with me as I drove to my parents' house that Saturday, Lily babbling happily in her car seat. The familiar two-story colonial, with its perfect landscaping, looked exactly as it always had, though I now viewed it through different eyes, appreciating its stability while recognizing the rigidity that often came with it. My mother greeted us warmly, immediately sweeping Lily into her arms for kisses and exclamations over how much she'd grown. My father emerged from his study, awkwardly patting Lily's head before surprising me with a brief, stiff hug. "Thomas is coming later," Mom explained, leading us to the living room, where a large pine tree stood undecorated. "And we thought we'd order pizza for lunch. Is that okay with Lily's schedule?" The consideration for Lily's routine was new and touching. "Pizza's great. She loves picking off the toppings and making a mess." "We put a sheet under her high chair," Dad said, pointing to the dining room where, indeed, they'd prepared for toddler dining chaos. The morning passed pleasantly as we hung ornaments, my mother narrating the story behind each one to an attentive Lily. "This ballerina was Auntie Stephanie's when she was little," she explained, showing Lily a delicate glass dancer. "And this baseball player was Uncle Thomas's favorite. And this," she continued, lifting a clay handprint painted green, "was your mommy's from kindergarten. See how small her hand was?" I watched, throat tight, as Lily pressed her own tiny hand against my decades-old print, a tangible connection across generations. My parents' home was filled with these touchstones of family history, photos tracking our growth, ornaments marking milestones, traditions binding us together. For all their flaws, they had created a foundation of belonging that I wanted Lily to experience, albeit with less judgment than I had known. Thomas arrived as promised, bringing a small gift for Lily and news that he'd been offered a job at a firm in the city, meaning he'd be moving closer in the new year. "That's amazing!" I hugged him, genuinely thrilled. "Lily will love having her uncle nearby." "I'm counting on free babysitting," he joked, though the look we exchanged acknowledged the deeper truth he wanted to be present in our lives in a way distance had prevented. We were finishing lunch when the front door opened without a knock. "Mom? Dad? Are you home?" Stephanie's voice cut through the comfortable atmosphere, instantly creating tension. She appeared in the dining room doorway, impeccably dressed as always, surprise evident on her face as she registered my presence. "Oh, I didn't know you were having a family gathering." "We're decorating the tree," my mother explained, her voice overly bright. "Come join us. There's pizza left." Stephanie hesitated, her discomfort palpable. "I just stopped by to drop off the Christmas party invitations." She placed envelopes on the sideboard. "I should go. Brandon has soccer practice." "Stay," my father said, with unusual firmness. "The boy can miss one practice. Family is more important." The irony of his statement wasn't lost on any of us, least of all me. Stephanie's eyes met mine, a silent standoff of unresolved hurt. "Stephanie," Thomas broke in, Sit down and have some cold pizza like a normal person. We're all adults here. Something in his casual command broke the tension. She laughed reluctantly and pulled out a chair, though she positioned it farther from mine than necessary. Conversation resumed, stilted at first, but gradually easing as we focused on safe topics. Thomas's new job, Dad's golf handicap, Mom's garden club drama. Lily, unaware of the undercurrents, charmed everyone by sharing her half-chewed pizza with each adult in turn, a gesture of toddler generosity none of us could refuse. After lunch, Thomas suggested taking Lily to the backyard to see the bird feeder, tactfully creating space for the conversation that everyone could feel brewing. Mom followed them, leaving me, Dad, and Stephanie at the table. I should help Mom, Stephanie said, starting to rise. Sit down, Stephanie, Dad said, his tone gentle but firm. It's time we cleared the air. She sank back, avoiding my gaze. Dad cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable but determined. I owe you both an apology, he began. I've done a poor job of supporting you through difficult times, Madeline. And Stephanie, I've enabled your harsher tendencies by suggesting appearances matter more than compassion. This direct acknowledgement from our typically non-confrontational father stunned us both into silence. Your Thanksgiving gathering, he continued, addressing me, showed me what I've been missing by clinging to rigid ideas about what family should look like. Those people from all different backgrounds, different family structures, they supported each other without judgment. They were more of a family than we've been to you lately. He turned to Stephanie. And that's on all of us, but especially me as your father. I set the wrong example. Stephanie's perfect composure cracked slightly, her eyes glistening. I was trying to protect our family traditions, she said defensively. Our values. By excluding your sister and niece? Dad challenged gently. What value does that uphold? It's not that simple, she insisted. David's parents were there. They're very traditional. I didn't want to subject Madeline to their judgment. So you subjected me to yours instead, I said, finding my voice at last. You called me a family disgrace, Stephanie. Those exact words. She flinched. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I interrupted, surprising myself with my calmness. You meant it then. Maybe you regret it now. But in that moment you meant to hurt me because my life doesn't fit your perfect picture. That's not fair. I have my children to think about. The example we're setting, and what example is that? I asked. That family only counts when it's convenient or conventional? That people who make different choices or face different circumstances should be hidden away like something shameful? Of course not. But her protest lacked conviction. Then what example were you setting, exactly? I pressed. Because from where I stand, you taught your children that it's okay to abandon people when they're at their most vulnerable. Dad shifted uncomfortably but remained silent, allowing us the confrontation we'd needed for months. Stephanie stared at the table, her perfect manicure tapping against the wood. I was scared, she finally admitted, voice small. Of what? Of disorder. Messiness. She looked up, vulnerability replacing her usual confidence. My whole life is built around order and planning. The right schools, the right husband, the right house in the right neighborhood. When Jake left you, when you decided to continue as a single mother, it scared me. Because it showed that even when you do everything right, life can still fall apart. Her honesty caught me off guard. All this time, I'd assumed her judgment came from feeling superior. I never considered it might come from fear. But my life didn't fall apart, I said gently. It changed. It became harder in some ways. Yes. But also richer, more authentic. I learned who I really am when everything external was stripped away. You make it look easy, she whispered. I laughed, genuine amusement breaking through the tension. Easy? Steph, I'm exhausted most days. I worry constantly about money. Sometimes I cry in the shower because it's the only place Lily can't see me. It's not easy, it's just real. I wouldn't know what to do if David left, she confessed. I've built everything around being his wife, the children's mother. Without that structure, you'd figure it out, I assured her. Just like I did. But here's the thing. Stephanie, you don't have to experience something to show compassion for it. You don't have to understand my choices to respect them. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister's right. We've all failed at that basic kindness, and it stops now. He looked between us. This family has always prided itself on sticking together. It's time we actually lived up to that value. Stephanie met my eyes directly for the first time. I am sorry, Maddie. For what I said, for uninviting you. It was cruel, and you deserved better from me. Thank you, I said simply. I won't pretend it didn't hurt, but I'd rather move forward than hold on to that pain. Does this mean you'll come for Christmas? She asked tentatively. I considered my answer carefully. I'd like to, but with conditions. I need to know that Lily and I are genuinely welcome, not just tolerated. That means no more comments about Jake. No suggestions that we're somehow incomplete without a man in our lives. Agreed, Dad said firmly, before Stephanie could respond. And that goes for all of us. Stephanie nodded slowly. I'd like to get to know Lily better. She's pretty amazing. She is, I agreed, allowing a small smile. And I'd like her to know her aunt and cousins. Family matters to me, Steph. It always has. I just need it to be a family that accepts us as we are, not as you wish we were. I'm trying, she said, and I believed her. It's hard to unlearn a lifetime of expectations. Tell me about it. I laughed softly. I never expected to be a single mother, but here we are, and honestly, despite everything, I wouldn't change it. Lily is worth every struggle, every judgment, every tear. The back door opened then, and Thomas returned with a giggly, leaf-covered Lily. Someone decided to dive into Dad's leaf pile, he explained, passing my daughter to me. Bah! Lily announced, proudly offering me a crumpled maple leaf. Thank you, baby, I said, tucking it behind my ear like a precious jewel. Stephanie watched this exchange, something softening in her expression. She really is happy, isn't she? Despite everything. Children are resilient, Dad observed. More so than adults, sometimes. Speaking of resilient, I said, seizing the moment, I'd like to invite all of you to my place for New Year's Day. Nothing fancy, just brunch with some friends. The same group from Thanksgiving. We'd be honored, Dad answered immediately. I'll check with David. Stephanie hedged, then caught herself. Actually, we'll be there. David can manage one holiday with a less traditional gathering. As we prepared to leave later that afternoon, Stephanie helped me bundle Lily into her coat. I really am sorry, Maddie, she said quietly. I was wrong, and I hurt you when you needed support. We all make mistakes, I replied, zipping Lily's coat. The question is what we learn from them. She nodded thoughtfully. I'm learning that my way isn't the only way. That's uncomfortable, but necessary. Welcome to growth, I smiled, hoisting Lily onto my hip. It's messy and imperfect, just like life, just like family, she amended, offering Lily a tentative finger to grasp. Driving home, Lily already dozing in her car seat, I reflected on the day's unexpected healing. The road ahead with my family would still have bumps. Years of ingrained judgment wouldn't disappear overnight. But for the first time since becoming a single mother, I felt like we were traveling in the same direction rather than divergent paths. More importantly, I recognized my own growth. 6 months ago, I would have accepted Stephanie's half-hearted invitation just to avoid conflict, swallowing my hurt to maintain family peace. Now, I'd stated my needs clearly and set boundaries around how we would engage. We're getting stronger every day, Lily Bean, I whispered to my sleeping daughter. Both of us. Asterisk, asterisk. 1 year later. Asterisk, asterisk. Lily, come help Mommy put the banner up, I called, balancing on a step stool in my living room. My now 2.5-year-old daughter toddled in, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. I help, she declared, reaching for the end of the colorful fabric banner that read, Thankful and Blessed. Hold it steady, I instructed, smiling as she gripped the edge with determined concentration. Perfect. Our apartment, looked transformed from the previous year. Not because we'd moved or upgraded. The same modest 2 bedrooms still served our needs perfectly. But the space felt different because I was different. Photographs lined the walls not just of Lily, but of our expanding circle. The single parents group at the pumpkin patch, Lily with my parents at the zoo, Thomas giving his niece a piggyback ride through the park, and yes, a few of Marcus and me, our friendship having blossomed into something deeper over the past year. Nothing rushed, nothing desperate, just a gradual recognition that we fit into each other's lives with an ease that felt both surprising and inevitable. The doorbell rang, sending Lily into an excited dance. Company! Company! Not yet, sweetie. That's just Uncle Thomas with the extra chairs. Indeed, my brother entered using his spare key, carrying folding chairs and a bottle of wine. Happy Thanksgiving Eve, he greeted, setting down his burdens to swing Lily into the air. Ready for the big day, Munchkin? Turkey Day, she confirmed, her vocabulary having exploded in recent months. Need any help with prep? Thomas asked, following me to the kitchen where pies cooled on racks and chopped vegetables waited in containers. Everything's under control. Marcus is coming over early to help with the turkey. Thomas waggled his eyebrows suggestively. Stop it, I laughed, swatting him with a dishcloth. It's not like that. Yet, he amended, helping himself to a piece of carrot. But it could be. Should be, actually. The guy's crazy about you and Lily. We're taking it slow, I reminded him. Both of us have priorities beyond dating, hence the whole coming early to help with the turkey thing. The man understands the way to a single mom's heart is through practical assistance. I couldn't argue with that. Marcus had never pushed for more than I could give, understanding intuitively that Lily came first and my independence was hard-won. Instead, he'd integrated himself into our lives through consistent presence and genuine care, showing up with groceries when I was sick, reading Lily her favorite books with all the funny voices, remembering my work schedule without being reminded. Speaking of practical assistance, Thomas continued, Mom called. They'll be here around noon instead of 1. Dad wants to watch the parade with Lily. The ease with which we now discussed our parents' involvement in my life still sometimes caught me by surprise. The past year had seen gradual but steady improvement in our relationship, weekly dinners, occasional babysitting, genuine interest in my work and Lily's development. They weren't perfect, and we still had moments of tension when old patterns emerged, but the effort was real on all sides. Even Stephanie had made strides, though our relationship remained the most complicated. She'd invited Lily for playdates with her children, included us in family gatherings without qualification, and even, on one memorable occasion, defended my parenting to a judgmental PTA mother at her son's school. Someone criticized single parents, she'd reported later, a hint of righteous indignation in her voice. I told her my sister was the most dedicated mother I know, and her outdated stereotypes said more about her than about modern families. The memory still made me smile. Baby steps, but meaningful ones. That evening, after Thomas left and Lily went to bed, I sat in my quiet living room, mentally reviewing my preparations for the next day. Our second annual Misfit Thanksgiving had expanded considerably from last year's hastily assembled gathering to this year's carefully planned celebration. The guest list now included not just friends from the single parents group, but colleagues, neighbors, and yes, my entire family. My phone chimed with a text from Marcus. Need anything for tomorrow? Making a store run. The offer was small but thoughtful, another thread in the tapestry of support I'd been weaving this past year. I smiled, typing back, We're all set. But thanks for offering. Thanksgiving morning dawned clear and cold. Lily woke me by jumping on the bed, already fully embracing the holiday excitement. Turkey Day, Pumpkin Day, that's right, baby, I laughed, pulling her close for morning cuddles. Are you ready to help Mommy make a special breakfast? Together, we made pumpkin pancakes, Lily helping by stirring the batter and getting more on herself than in the bowl. These small moments teaching her to crack eggs, sort of, letting her sprinkle cinnamon everywhere, watching her proud face as she carried a plate to the table, filled me with a contentment I couldn't have imagined when Jake walked out almost 2 years ago. Marcus arrived at 10, as promised, bearing flowers and a toy for Lily. Special delivery for the chef, he announced, presenting me with the bouquet. Uncle Marcus! Lily squealed, abandoning her pancakes to launch herself at his legs. Hey, Pumpkin, he greeted, swinging her up for a hug. The uncle title had been her invention, not our suggestion, but neither of us corrected it. In her 2-year-old wisdom, she'd assigned him a place in our world that felt right, even as we were still figuring out exactly what that place might be. The morning passed in a whirl of cooking, cleaning, and last-minute decorating. Marcus proved himself useful beyond the turkey, assembling the kids' table, moving furniture to accommodate our growing guest list, and keeping Lily entertained when my attention was needed elsewhere. At noon, my parents arrived, my father immediately getting down on the floor to play with Lily despite his expensive slacks. My mother joined me in the kitchen, donning an apron without being asked. This is becoming quite the tradition, she observed, expertly crimping the edges of the pie I hadn't yet finished. You've built something special here, Madeline. We have, I corrected gently. All of us, she nodded, understanding my meaning. I've been thinking a lot about last year, about how close we came to losing you and Lily because of our stubbornness. We were never lost, Mom. Just finding a different path. Still, I'm grateful every day that we found our way back to each other. She hesitated, then added, Your father and I have been seeing a family therapist. Did Thomas tell you? I paused in my vegetable chopping, genuinely surprised. No, he didn't. Wow. That's great, Mom. It's helping us understand where some of our rigid thinking comes from. How we've hurt you and Thomas without meaning to. She focused intently on the pie crust. We want to do better, be better, especially for Lily. The doorbell interrupted this unexpected moment of vulnerability, but the warmth of it stayed with me as I greeted the arriving guests. Keisha and her twins brought homemade rolls. Rachel and her now 4-year-old son carried a towering chocolate cake. Miguel's daughters had made hand-drawn place cards for everyone. Stephanie and her family arrived last, her usual perfect appearance slightly disheveled. Brandon decided to play soccer in the mud right before we left, she explained, gesturing to her son's clean but clearly hastily changed outfit. So we're fashionably late. Right on time, I assured her, accepting the bottle of wine she offered. The kids are all in Lily's room if Brandon wants to join them. As our guests settled in, I found myself watching the natural mingling of these once separate parts of my life. My father deep in conversation with Miguel about youth sports programs. My mother and Keisha exchanging recipes. Thomas making Stephanie actually laugh with some story from his new job. Marcus moving effortlessly between groups, belonging everywhere and nowhere, much like me. Before dinner, I asked everyone to gather in the living room. Lily perched on my hip, I faced the assembled guests, this chosen family that had sustained me through the hardest year of my life. Before we eat, I want to thank you all for being here, I began. A year ago, I stood in this room feeling utterly rejected by the people I thought would always support me. I was hurt, angry, and frankly, terrified that I wasn't enough for Lily, that without a traditional family, I was somehow failing her. My eyes met my sister's, seeing her slight wince at the memory. What I didn't realize then was that family isn't defined by structure or convention. It's defined by love, by showing up, by accepting people as they are, rather than who you think they should be. I shifted Lily to my other hip. This past year has taught me that we all need different kinds of support at different times. Sometimes we need practical help. I nodded toward the single parents group. Sometimes we need tough love, a glance at Thomas. And sometimes we need people who believe in us, even when we don't believe in ourselves. Here, I couldn't help looking at Marcus, whose steady gaze held mine with quiet understanding. Most importantly, I've learned that I am enough for Lily. Not because I'm perfect, I'm far from it, but because I'm hers. Because I show up every day, doing my best with the resources I have. That's what family means. That's what love means. My father cleared his throat, visibly moved. To Madeline, he said, raising his glass. Who taught this old dog some new tricks about what really matters? To Madeline, the group echoed. As we moved to the dining area, my mismatched tables now covered with equally mismatched dishes brought by various guests, I felt a sense of completion that had nothing to do with perfection. This gathering, imperfect, authentic, slightly chaotic, was exactly what I'd needed all along. Later, as guests helped themselves to dessert and coffee, Marcus found me in the kitchen, washing dishes despite my protests that they could wait. "Need a drying partner?" he offered, picking up a towel. "Always," I smiled, handing him a clean plate. We worked in comfortable silence for a moment before he spoke again. "I've been thinking." "Dangerous," I teased. "I know we've been taking things slow, and I respect that," he continued, carefully drying a wine glass. "But I want you to know that I'm all in, Maddie. With you, with Lily, with this life you've built. However you want me in it, that's where I want to be." The simple honesty of his declaration took my breath away. "Marcus, you don't have to answer now," he assured me quickly. "I just wanted you to know. No pressure, no timeline." I set down the sponge and turned to face him fully. A year ago, I wouldn't have been ready to hear that. I was still figuring out who I was as Lily's mom, as a woman standing on her own. And now I know that standing on my own doesn't mean standing alone. I stepped closer, taking the towel from his hands. "I want you in our lives, Marcus, in whatever way makes sense for all of us." He smiled, relief and joy mingling in his expression. That's all I needed to hear. In the living room, someone called my name, the party continuing without us. Life moving forward in its messy, unpredictable way. "We should get back," I said. "In a minute." He reached for my hand, entwining our fingers. "I just want to remember this moment." I knew exactly what he meant. Standing there in my modest kitchen, dishes half done, the sounds of laughter and conversation drifting in from the other room, it wasn't perfect by any conventional standard. But it was real. It was ours. And it was enough. The remainder of the evening passed in a blur of conversation, laughter, and the comfortable chaos of a house full of people who genuinely cared for each other. As guests began to leave, each with containers of leftovers and warm hugs, I found myself standing in the doorway with Lily half asleep on my shoulder, watching my two families, biological and chosen, intermingle, as if they'd always belonged together. My parents left with promises to take Lily for the weekend, so I could catch up on work. Stephanie invited me for coffee the following week, a small but significant gesture of continued effort. Thomas departed with Marcus, the two deep in conversation about some obscure medical drama they both apparently followed. And then it was just Lily and me, the apartment quiet after hours of noise and activity. "Did you have fun today, Lily Bean?" I asked, carrying her toward the bathroom for her bedtime routine. "Fun?" she agreed sleepily. "More tomorrow?" "Not tomorrow, but soon." I kissed her forehead. "We have lots of people who love us now." As I tucked her into bed, I thought about how far we'd come since that devastating phone call from Stephanie a year ago. The journey hadn't been easy. Rebuilding trust rarely is, but the destination was worth every difficult step. After Lily fell asleep, I returned to the living room, surveying the remnants of our celebration. Dishes were stacked neatly by the sink. Marcus's doing, no doubt. The tables were cleared, chairs pushed back against the walls. But the thankful and blessed banner still hung proudly, a testament to the life we'd created. I snapped a photo of the banner with my phone and sent it to the single parents group chat with the message: "Another successful misfit Thanksgiving in the books. Grateful for each of you." Responses pinged back immediately. "Best turkey ever, Miguel." "My kids are still talking about the dessert table, Keisha." "Same time next year, Rachel." I smiled, scrolling through the messages before setting my phone aside. The past year had taught me so many lessons about resilience, about judgment, about what truly constitutes family. But perhaps the most important lesson was the one I hoped to pass on to Lily as she grew. That worthiness isn't determined by conformity to others' expectations, but by the courage to live authentically despite them. Being a single mother wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life that had shaped me into someone stronger, more compassionate, and ultimately more fulfilled than I might otherwise have become. The challenges hadn't disappeared. There were still financial struggles, logistical complications, and occasional loneliness. But they no longer defined my story. Instead, my story was about building community where I'd been excluded, about creating traditions when old ones failed me, about finding my voice when others tried to silence it, and most of all, about showing my daughter that a family can take many forms, all of them valid, all of them capable of providing the love and stability she deserved. As I turned off the lights and headed to bed, I paused at Lily's doorway, watching her peaceful sleep. "We did it, Lily Bean," I whispered. "We made our own kind of family, and it's beautiful." The journey from rejection to reclamation had changed me fundamentally. I'd discovered that family isn't defined by structure, but by love. That traditions aren't valuable because they're old, but because they're meaningful. And that the opinions that matter most are those from people who see you fully and love you anyway. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as our greatest challenges. Jake's abandonment had forced me to find my strength. My family's rejection had led me to build a broader community. And the judgment I'd faced had taught me the power of radical acceptance, both of others and, crucially, of myself. So what do you think? I ask you now, as I share this story of struggle and redemption. Have you ever faced judgment from the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? Have you had to redefine your understanding of family? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to join our community of people who believe that family is defined by love, not convention. Remember, sometimes the hardest challenges lead to the most beautiful transformations. Sometimes rejection opens the door to deeper connection. And sometimes, when life doesn't unfold as expected, we discover we're stronger, braver, and more capable of love than we ever imagined. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. Until next time, embrace your authentic self, create your own traditions, and remember that you are always, always enough.